New Year's resolutions. I used to believe in them, but not anymore. In fact, I've actually stopped setting New Year's resolutions entirely. And if you've struggled to stay true to yours, then you're definitely going to want to stick around for this video, because today I'm going to be telling you why I no longer have resolutions and 3 things that I'm doing instead to reach my goals. For all of that to make sense, we need to discuss a lighthearted subject. Everyone wants to talk about it. Today we're going to talk about dying alone. How to Not Die Alone. It's a book by Logan Ury. In the book, the author categorizes you into one of 3 dating tendencies. The first one is the romanticizer. The second one is the maximizer. And the third one, which is the one that I am, is the hesitator. Hesitators believe that they aren't the person that they want to be yet. They have really high standards of themselves. And when I read this section of the book, I felt like she perfectly described me, that I decided that I was going to implement what she recommended for hesitators into my life as my New Year's resolutions. And what she recommends for hesitators to get over this fear of not being good enough, and to get over the fear of getting started, is to go on a date per week. Sorry, that's 52 dates for any of you trying to do the math out there. And listen, I know that sounds ambitious, right? Well, no problem. I'm an ambitious guy, so it should be all good. The thing is, though, I didn't go on any dates. I went on 0 of the 52 dates. Now, for those of you wondering why, I drink out of a cat mug, so I hope that's enough of an indicator for you. But besides that, I just didn't actually want to go on any of the dates. I know I might sound weird for saying this, but I'm just not that interested in improving my dating life. It's something I need to improve on, don't get me wrong, I know that. It's just not something I internally want to improve. Not right now, at least. And as I reflected on my resolutions from last year, I realized that many of us pick resolutions that we don't actually want. I think that we pick things that seem good for us, that can be externally validated by others. People will say things like, I want to get into the best shape of my life. I want to learn a new language. I want to drink less. And of course, they're going to get support from their peers. In my case, when I told my friends that I was going to go on a date per week, I'm not going to lie, they were a little skeptical, and rightfully so, obviously. But still, they supported me. They said things like, you know what, man, that's great. I'm really happy for you. That's a tough one to do, but it's really important. And I think to myself,
yeah, this is good. This is tough. This is a really great resolution.
And what I realized is that I was actually just trying to get validation from my friends far more than I was actually trying to push my dating life forward or to actually learn anything from these experiences. And so when the new year rolls around and it's time for me to actually act on these resolutions, well, I have no motivation to, because I already got exactly what I wanted, which was the validation from my friends. This obviously was not working to my benefit, and so I've decided to completely ditch my New Year's resolutions. Instead, I am doing 3 things to help me reach my goals, and this first one has absolutely nothing to do with the year ahead. Now look, it's really sexy and exciting to look forward to the year ahead. It's a clean slate, you have endless possibilities, you could do anything you want, you could be anyone you want. However, it's really important to not just glaze over the year that we just lived. As important as it is to not dwell too much on the past, we can actually learn a tremendous amount from looking at the year that we just lived. As Soren Kierkegaard says, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. That's why the first thing that I'm doing this year instead of New Year's resolutions is past year review. I'm doing a past year review. There are a ton of these out there. Tim Ferriss has one. Chris Williamson has one. The one I do is from Sahil Bloom. I will link all of them down below. But all of these past year reviews or annual reviews are all trying to accomplish and get you to think about the same 2 things. The first is what created energy for you this year, and the second is what drained energy from you this year. Personally, things like making these YouTube videos, hanging out with my good friends, exercising regularly, these are all things that provided me with energy. But on the other hand, there's things like drinking too much alcohol, spending too much time on social media, spending too much time thinking about the past. These are all things that drained me of energy. And so once you've figured out these things, activities, people, whatever it is, you can actually go ahead and start planning out your year. What you're gonna do is you're gonna want to include more things that provide you with energy, and you're gonna wanna exclude all the things that drain you of energy. So now that we've covered the past, let's jump into the second thing that I am doing instead of New Year's resolutions, and that is actually getting into other people's heads. Do you ever wonder how you're described to others? Like, if you weren't in the room and someone asked about you, how would your friends or your family describe you to someone who's never met you? Now, of course, you would never actually know what they'd say, but you can start to think about what you would want them to say about you. So a few weeks ago, I sat down and I asked myself, how do I want to be described? And a few words immediately came to mind. So the first one is that I was honest. The second is that I was authentic, and the third is that I have conviction. Now, if you were to ask the people in my life if this is the way they describe me right now, they'd probably say no. That's okay. That's the whole point of this exercise. This is the kind of person that you want to become. I essentially want to embody these values so deeply that my values are indicated by the way that I act. But see, when you set New Year's resolutions, what you're really doing is just picking a habit that a future better version of yourself would do. But the issue is that it's actually constrained to a single area of your life most of the time. Like if your New Year's resolution was to work out more consistently, that's great. The corresponding value there is discipline. But the issue is if your New Year's resolution is to work out more consistently, the discipline is being constrained to only focus on your health. And this is gonna make it harder to stick to that habit because the bad areas of discipline in the other aspects of your life are just going to leak in and start to infect the discipline within your health regimen. And so if you want others to see you as disciplined, then you have to hold yourself to that standard. So you not only have to apply that discipline to your health, but also to your relationships, to your finances, and everything else. And so that's the second thing that I'm doing this year. Instead of setting New Year's resolutions, I'm actually figuring out who I want to be as a person first, and then working backwards from there to figure out what actions I can implement in my life to become that person. So now that we know what kind of person we want to become, we actually need to figure out how we can actually act to become that person. And that's where this third tip comes into play. Oh, good stretch. See, one of the biggest problems with New Year's resolutions is the language that they use. Like if you ask someone what their New Year's resolutions are, they're gonna say something like, I'd really like to get into shape, or I want to read more books. But saying I'd really like to, or I want, is incredibly weak language. And when you build your New Year's resolutions on weak language, they also become weak. But that almost seems like the point of New Year's resolutions. Like no one takes them seriously. Breaking your New Year's resolutions, not following through on them, is the normal thing to do. However, rules, on the other hand, rules are serious, and almost everyone follows rules. Breaking rules is actually the exception. I think a part of this is that we grew up with rules, and if you didn't follow those rules, there would be consequences. But rules also have a certain language that New Year's resolutions don't. I must. You can't. If this happens, then you do this. It's certain. It's authoritative, and our brains want to follow them. So in order to take advantage of this fact, a few weeks ago I actually put together a list of rules that I would follow instead of my New Year's resolutions, and they have been so much more effective so far than New Year's resolutions have ever been. Let me give you an example. So a few months back, a friend of mine told me that anytime we hung out, he noticed that I was always on my phone. And I hated that he said that. I am so embarrassed that he noticed that. And so when I went and put together this list of rules, the first one that went on this list was, I do not use my phone when socializing. And so it's been a few weeks since I've implemented that. And every time I've hung out with my friends since then, my phone has been in my coat pocket or somewhere where I can't touch it. And I pretty much haven't used my phone at all. And so I have about 8 of these rules so far. This list is by no means comprehensive or finalized or anything. I'll actually share this list down below in the pinned comment section. I think that it's going to be really, really fundamental for my growth in this upcoming year. And I really recommend you putting one together as well. And so that's about it. Check out the list if you'd like. Let me know if there's any rules you're going to be implementing into your life in this upcoming year. But other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.